My sister lead to my fiancé. About me to sabotage the wedding, so I exposed her at the rehearsal dinner and let her husband hear every word. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and for the longest time I thought I had it all figured out. I was in love with Lisa, my fiancée, and everything about our relationship felt like a dream. We'd been together for 3 years, and we had this perfect little bubble of happiness, surrounded by the kind of love that made me believe nothing could break us apart. Our wedding was just around the corner, and every detail was coming together beautifully. Lisa was the kind of person who lit up any room she walked into, and I couldn't wait to call her my wife. But here's the thing about family. They can be your biggest supporters, or they can break you down in ways you never saw coming. I've always had a close relationship with my sister, Megan. She's 2 years older than me, and growing up, we were inseparable. But over the last few years, something changed. Megan became more distant, and I never really understood why. She was still there for family events and big moments, but there was always a weird undercurrent between us, like she was holding something back, like there was an invisible wall that she had carefully built around herself. When I announced my engagement to Lisa, Megan was the first to congratulate me. Her smile looked genuine enough, but there was something in her eyes that didn't sit right with me. She kept making comments about how big weddings weren't really her thing and how she'd prefer something more low-key. I laughed it off at first. Maybe it was just wedding stress getting to her. After all, we all know how things get when planning such a big event. But as time went on, those little comments didn't stop. They started to grow more pointed, more subtle. "Are you sure you want that kind of wedding, Dan?" she'd ask, her voice dripping with just the right amount of sarcasm. "Lisa's been really into the planning, huh? I guess she's really taking charge." She would make these small, offhand remarks that seemed innocent on the surface, but every time, I felt like she was trying to plant a seed of doubt in my mind. I brushed it off. Maybe I was just being paranoid. After all, it was my sister. She wouldn't try to ruin my happiness, right? Still, every time she spoke about the wedding, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I wasn't ready to confront it. Not yet. I didn't realize then that these little comments were just the beginning of something much darker. A week before the wedding, I could feel the pressure building. Every time I saw Megan, she seemed to have something new to say about the wedding. At family gatherings, she'd casually drop little comments like, "I hope Lisa doesn't get too overwhelmed by the attention. It could be a lot for her." Or, "I really think you should make sure Lisa doesn't make any decisions without you." It was becoming impossible to ignore. But the real moment that hit me like a punch to the gut came. The day I was supposed to pick up my tux. I went to my mom's house afterward, hoping to finally have a normal conversation with Megan, to calm my nerves before the wedding. But as soon as I walked through the door, I could feel the tension in the air. Megan was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up when I walked in. I sat down across from her, trying to keep things light. "Hey, just wanted to check in and see if you were still good with the wedding stuff." She finally looked up at me, but there was something cold in her eyes. "Yeah, everything's fine. But, I think you're rushing into things with Lisa. I don't think you've really thought about it." I blinked, trying to make sense of what she was saying. "What do you mean?" "Of course I've thought about it. Lisa and I are ready for this," Megan scoffed. "I'm just saying, you've been so focused on her and her dream wedding that you haven't even thought about what you want. Don't you think it's a little selfish of her to want it all her way?" My heart sank. It wasn't just a dig at Lisa, it was a stab at me. "What are you talking about, Megan? Why are you making it sound like I'm the one who's being selfish?" She leaned forward, her voice lowering to a more serious tone. "I just want you to see things clearly, Dan. You've always been the good son, the obedient one. But do you think Lisa really loves you for who you are? Or is she just after your money? Your family's status?" I could feel my jaw clenching, my blood starting to boil. This wasn't a sister looking out for me. This was someone trying to tear me down. "What the hell is wrong with you, Megan?" I spat, standing up from the couch. "Lisa loves me. She's been with me through everything, and you have the nerve to question her intentions?" Megan's expression remained calm, almost too calm. "I just don't want you to be blindsided. I'm not the only one who thinks she's not the right one for you. but no one wants to tell you that." My chest tightened, the air feeling thick and suffocating. It felt like a gut punch. I couldn't believe my sister was saying this, trying to manipulate me into doubting the woman I was going to marry. My own flesh and blood was turning on me, and for what? Her jealousy? Her need to control everything? I could feel the rage building inside me, but I held back. "You need to stop, Megan," I said through gritted teeth. "You're not going to ruin this for me. You're not going to turn me against Lisa. You are the problem here." Megan didn't flinch. "Fine, Dan, keep defending her. But one day, you'll see the truth. And when you do, don't come crying to me." I stormed out of the house, my heart pounding. I couldn't even look at her anymore. This wasn't just a sibling rivalry or a difference of opinion. Megan was actively trying to destroy everything I cared about, everything I had worked for. And as I drove home, a sickening thought hit me. What if she wasn't the only one? What if there were others in the family who had been quietly sowing seeds of doubt? I wasn't sure how, but I knew one thing. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. And I was about to find out exactly how far Megan was willing to go. It was the night of the rehearsal dinner, and I could barely keep my hands from shaking. There was a buzz of excitement in the air, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Megan hadn't said a word to me since our argument, and though I tried to brush it off, I could feel her presence lingering over everything. Lisa and I were standing by the buffet, trying to enjoy the evening when I noticed Megan walk into the room. She was talking to some of the relatives, laughing too loudly, drawing attention to herself as always. But it was the way she looked at Lisa, eyes narrow, jaw tight, that made my stomach flip. I didn't know what to expect, but I could feel the tension in my chest building. Something was about to happen. After a few minutes, Megan made her way over to me, a cold smile plastered across her face. "Hey, Dan," she said, her voice too sweet to be sincere. "I just wanted to make sure you've got everything covered for tomorrow. I mean, you don't want anything to go wrong, right?" "Yeah, Megan, I've got it handled," I said, forcing a smile, trying to act normal. But I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. The way she spoke, it wasn't just about the wedding. It was about something else. I glanced over at Lisa, who was talking to one of the bridesmaids. She looked happy, but I could see the nervousness in her posture. She was holding back. I wanted to protect her, to pull her away from all the drama that Megan was stirring, but I knew I couldn't run away from this. Then, out of nowhere, Megan dropped the bombshell. "You know," she said, leaning in slightly so only I could hear, "I had a long talk with Lisa's ex the other day. He's a great guy. Too bad she didn't choose him. But hey, everyone has their reasons, right?" My blood went cold. I tried to keep my face neutral, but inside I was seething. "What the hell are you talking about?" I demanded quietly, my voice tight with anger. "Oh, nothing," Megan said with a shrug. "Just that maybe Lisa wasn't as upfront about her past as she made out to be. You know, maybe she wasn't as innocent as you think." I felt my hands curl into fists. My mind was racing. Lisa had never mentioned an ex. What was Megan trying to do? Why would she bring something like that up now, on the eve of our wedding? I walked away from Megan without saying another word. I couldn't hear her anymore. I had to find Lisa. I needed to talk to her. I found her a few minutes later standing by the windows with a glass of wine in her hand, looking out at the city lights. She looked beautiful, but there was something heavy in her gaze. She was waiting for me, like she knew something was wrong. "Hey," I said, my voice unsteady. "We need to talk." Lisa looked at me, concern flashing across her face. "What's going on? You look off." I took a deep breath. "Megan, she said something about your ex. Something about you not being completely honest with me." Lisa's face drained of color. "What? She said what?" I couldn't help it. I felt anger rising in me again. "She's trying to sabotage everything, Lisa. She told me she's been talking to your ex, and now she's insinuating there's more to your past than you've told me." The words hung in the air, and for a second I thought I saw the same panic in Lisa's eyes that I was feeling. She was silent for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was quiet, almost broken. "Dan, I didn't want you to find out like this. But there's something I need to tell you. Something about my past. Something I should have told you before, but I didn't know how." I took a step forward, my heart pounding. "What is it, Lisa?" Her eyes filled with tears and she looked down at her hands. I didn't want Megan to be right, to make you think badly of me. But I need you to know the truth. I was in an abusive relationship before I met you. My ex was controlling, manipulative. I cut him out of my life years ago, but Megan must have found him somehow, and I don't know what she's told you, but he doesn't matter. What we have, Dan, is what matters. I swear, everything inside me froze. I was reeling, trying to process what Lisa had just said. I thought I knew everything about her, but now this whole other side of her life, this hidden part of her past, had been lurking in the shadows, just waiting to be dragged out into the light. And I didn't know how to react. Megan had done this. She'd pushed me to the edge of my trust, turned my world upside down with this cruel lie. I could barely get the words out. Why didn't you tell me? Lisa wiped her eyes, and for a moment I saw the vulnerability in her I'd never noticed before. I was scared. I didn't want you to think I was damaged. I didn't want to lose you over something that happened before we even met. I could feel the weight of the situation pressing on me. This was the moment I'd been dreading, the rock-bottom point where everything felt out of control. My sister had betrayed me. My fiancée had kept a part of her life hidden from me. And now everything was on the verge of falling apart. I wanted to believe Lisa. I did, but the trust I had in her, and in everything I thought I knew, was shattered, and I knew I had to confront Megan. But this time, it wasn't going to be like last time. This time, I was going to make her feel the pain she'd caused. This wasn't just about protecting my relationship anymore. It was about taking back control. The question was, how far was I willing to go to make Megan see what she had done to me? The next few days were a blur. The wedding was fast approaching, and I felt like I was walking through a fog, trapped between my sister's manipulation and Lisa's pain. I wanted to be angry at Lisa for not telling me about her ex, but all I could feel was an overwhelming sense of betrayal coming from Megan. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore, not after what she'd done. I had spent years trusting my sister, telling her everything, confiding in her about my fears, my struggles, and my happiness. And now she was trying to destroy the one thing I had left to hold on to. Lisa. The night before the wedding, I found myself pacing back and forth in the hotel room. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Megan's smug face, heard her words echoing in my head. Lisa's not who you think she is. But I knew deep down that Megan was lying. I had to confront her. I had to make sure she knew the damage she was causing. I went down to the hotel bar, where I knew Megan would be. She was always the first one to show up, always the first to throw her opinions into the mix. I walked in, and there she was, sitting with a couple of cousins, laughing loudly as if everything was fine. She looked up when I entered, and her eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place. Guilt, maybe? Or was it just her usual smugness? I took a deep breath, walked straight up to her, and pulled her aside. We need to talk, now. Megan's expression hardened. What's this about, Dan? You're acting like I've killed someone. I'm done with the lies, Megan, I said, my voice low, steady. You've been running your mouth about Lisa, about us, and I'm sick of it. Megan tried to laugh it off, but I saw the flicker of something else behind her eyes. She wasn't as confident as she appeared. Oh, come on. Don't tell me you actually believe everything she told you. She's hiding things from you, Dan. Big things. I took a step closer, feeling the rage building in my chest. You've done enough damage. I don't care what your problem with Lisa is, but I'm done letting you tear her down. And I'm done letting you tear me down. This is between you and me now. She leaned back, looking me over like I had somehow betrayed her. You're not even going to hear me out, are you? No, I replied coldly. I don't need to hear it, because I know the truth. I know what you've been doing to us, and I'm done letting you get away with it. You've manipulated me for the last time, Megan. The look on her face was one of surprise, then anger, then something else I couldn't place. Regret, maybe. But it was too late. I had finally reached my breaking point. I couldn't be swayed by her games anymore. She opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. You've spent the last few weeks trying to ruin my relationship, trying to make me doubt Lisa. Well, guess what? It's not going to work. I'm marrying Lisa tomorrow, and nothing you say or do is going to change that. Her face flushed, but she said nothing. For a long, tense moment, neither of us spoke. It was like the air was thick with everything that had been left unsaid. Then, with a sharp exhale, she finally spoke, her voice shaky but laced with venom. "Fine, Dan, go ahead. Marry her. But don't come crying to me when she hurts you. You won't be able to say I didn't warn you." I couldn't hold it in any longer. "You're not the one who gets to make those decisions for me, Megan. Not anymore. I'm done with your lies." I turned and walked away before she could say another word. The words were out there now, hanging in the air between us. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had taken control of the situation. It wasn't just about standing up for Lisa anymore. It was about standing up for myself. But as I walked back to the hotel room, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins, I knew this wasn't over. Megan might have been silent for now, but I had no doubt that she would try something else to ruin my wedding. And I wasn't about to let that happen. Tomorrow was the big day, and I was determined to make sure nothing, no one, was going to ruin it. Not even Megan. I just didn't know yet what she would try, next to tear everything down, and that thought kept me awake for the rest of the night. The wedding day arrived, and it felt like my whole world was spinning. I was supposed to be excited, to be standing next to the woman I loved, about to start a new chapter of my life, but all I could think about was Megan. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to go wrong. Megan had made it clear she wasn't going to just sit back and watch the wedding go down without trying to sabotage it somehow. I tried my best to focus on Lisa as we prepared for the ceremony, but I could tell she was just as nervous as I was. She kept glancing over at the door, probably wondering if my sister would try something during the ceremony. I wasn't sure if I could protect her from Megan's toxic behavior, but I swore I was going to try. When the ceremony started, everything seemed perfect at first. The flowers, the music, the way Lisa walked down the aisle, everything felt like a dream. But that nagging feeling in the back of my mind wouldn't go away. Megan had already tried to ruin things once, and I couldn't stop thinking about the possibility that she would do it again, at the worst possible moment. And then, right as the vows began, it happened. Megan stood up, interrupting the ceremony. The room fell into stunned silence as everyone turned to look at her. Her eyes were locked on mine, a mix of defiance and something else, something I couldn't quite identify. "Wait, wait," she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. "Dan, there's something you need to know, something that Lisa's been hiding from you." My heart sank. I could feel my hands starting to shake. Was this really happening? Was she really doing this now, in front of everyone? "Megan, sit down," I said, my voice tight with anger. I tried to keep my composure, but this was too much. But Megan didn't sit down. Instead, she smiled, like she was savoring every second of this moment. "No, Dan, this is important. You deserve to know the truth." The guests murmured in confusion, and I could feel Lisa tense beside me, her hand trembling in mine. I squeezed it, trying to reassure her, but it wasn't working. My mind was racing. What was Megan going to say now? "Megan," I said again, trying to keep my voice steady, "you need to stop. This is my wedding. Don't do this." She didn't listen. "I'm not the only one who knows, Dan. There are others who've seen Lisa's ex, the one she's been hiding. I've talked to him. I've seen the messages he's sent her. They've been in contact this whole time, and she's been lying to you about it." The words hit like a ton of bricks. My mind spun. Was this true? Had Lisa really been keeping secrets from me? My worst fears were suddenly coming to life. I turned to Lisa, but she was already shaking her head, her face pale with shock. "I don't know what she's talking about, Dan," Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. "I swear to you, I cut him out of my life years ago. I haven't spoken to him since. Please don't listen to her." But Megan wasn't done. "Well, it's not just that, is it? It's everything. You really think she's the perfect woman, Dan? The woman who's been lying to you about her past? Who's hiding things from you? She's not the one you think she is." At that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't let Megan drag me into her toxic world. Couldn't let her destroy everything I cared about just because she was jealous or angry. I had to stop this. Enough. I yelled, the words finally breaking free. Everyone fell silent. My chest was heaving with anger, but I was done being passive. You've crossed the line, Megan. You've done everything in your power to ruin this day, to ruin my relationship. I should have known better than to trust you. I looked over at Lisa, whose eyes were filled with tears, and my heart broke. I reached out to her, pulling her close. Lisa, I don't know what's going on, but I believe you. I believe in us. Megan's face twisted with fury. You're going to regret this, Dan. You think she's perfect? You're both so naive. You'll see what happens when this all falls apart. But I was done listening to her. No, Megan, I'm done with you. I'm done letting you control my life, my happiness. You've already tried to ruin everything, but not anymore. The silence in the room was deafening. Megan stood there seething, but the power had shifted. I had taken control, finally standing up to her and her manipulations. Everyone, I said, my voice steady now. This wedding is still going forward. I love Lisa, and nothing, no one, will take that away from me. I looked back at Lisa, and for the first time in days, I saw her smile. It wasn't the smile of someone who had been manipulated or who had been made to feel small. It was the smile of someone who had been seen and believed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had everything I needed. Megan turned and stormed out of the room, but I didn't watch her leave. I didn't care about her anymore. I cared about what was standing right in front of me, Lisa, my future. And that was all that mattered. The wedding went on, and though there would be scars left by the battle we'd just fought, it was a victory, one that marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life, a chapter where no one, not even family, would come between me and my happiness. And as I took Lisa's hand in mine, ready to say our vows, I knew one thing for sure. We had made it through the storm together, and nothing could tear us apart. The wedding ceremony was a blur after Megan stormed out. I was on autopilot, moving through the motions, but all I could focus on was the moment we had just been through. The words Megan had said still echoed in my head. You think she's perfect? You'll regret this. But I wasn't about to let those words haunt me. Not today. Not ever again. Lisa, looking more radiant than ever, held my hand as we stood before our friends and family exchanging our vows. I could see the tears in her eyes, but they were no longer tears of fear or doubt. They were tears of relief. Relief that finally I had chosen her. I had chosen us. When we said, I do, the weight of everything that had happened over the past few weeks seemed to lift from my shoulders. For the first time, I felt like I was truly stepping into a new chapter of my life. A chapter where nothing would tear us apart. Not my sister, not lies, not anyone. But I couldn't ignore the fact that Megan was still out there, and that, despite the victory, there was still a storm raging inside me. A storm of questions, of unresolved anger, of betrayal. The wedding was beautiful, but as the night wore on, I realized there was one final confrontation left. After the reception, as the last guests were leaving, I found myself standing outside on the balcony, the cool night air washing over me. I didn't realize how tense I was until I saw Lisa walk out and stand beside me. Are you okay? She asked softly, her hand gently resting on my arm. I nodded, trying to shake off the weight of the past few hours. Yeah, it's just a lot. Lisa squeezed my hand. I know, but we're okay now. You're here. I'm here. That's what matters. Her words brought me a sense of peace, but I couldn't push the rest of it aside. I had to finish this. I had to finally face my sister and end this chapter for good. Later that night, as the reception wound down, I decided to go find Megan. I knew she was probably hiding somewhere, stewing in her anger, but I couldn't let her slip away without a final conversation. I needed to know. Why? I found her in the back room, sitting alone, nursing a drink. Her face was a mixture of exhaustion and resentment as she looked up at me. You're still here, she said flatly, her voice full of bitterness. I need to talk to you, I said, my voice firm, though the anger was still simmering beneath the surface. You've done enough. You've tried to ruin everything, and I can't let you get away with it. Megan just scoffed, rolling her eyes. Oh, now you want to talk? After everything I've said, you're really gonna sit here and try to play the hero? This isn't about me being the hero, Megan, I said, my tone growing colder. This is about you not getting to decide who's in my life anymore. You don't get to dictate who I trust, who I love, or what my future looks like. She laughed bitterly. You think it's that easy? You think Lisa's the perfect angel? She's hiding things from you, Dan. You're too blind to see it. She's using you. She's just like everyone else. I felt my anger flare, but I held my ground. No, you're the one who's using me. You've used our family, used me, to get whatever you want. You don't get to mess with my life anymore. Not now. Not ever. Megan stood up, her face a mixture of rage and disbelief. So what? You're just going to turn your back on your own sister because of a few things I said? That's it. You're really that weak, Dan? I shook my head, my voice steady but resolute. No, I'm not weak. I'm finally strong enough to see the truth, Megan. And the truth is, I've been letting you control me for far too long. You don't get to do that anymore. You're not the center of my life, and I won't let you ruin it. I love Lisa. She's everything to me, and no matter how hard you try to tear us apart, you won't succeed. For a moment, it felt like we were both standing on the edge of something. I could see the hurt in Megan's eyes, but there was no empathy left in me. I couldn't save her from herself anymore. She was too deep in her own bitterness, her own jealousy to see the damage she was causing. You're wrong, Dan, she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper now. You'll see. One day, you'll regret this. I shook my head, my heart heavy but my resolve firm. I don't think I will. And if I ever do, it won't be because of anything you said or did. I'm done, Megan. For good. I turned and walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear her calling after me, but I didn't look back. The past was behind me now. I had my future ahead, and nothing, no one, was going to tear it apart. Lisa was waiting for me outside, her smile lighting up the darkness, and as I took her hand, I realized that no matter what happened with my family, I had everything I needed. Together, we would face whatever came our way. Together, we would be unstoppable. And nothing, not even my own sister, could change that. The days following the wedding were a blur of happiness and exhaustion. Lisa and I had finally crossed the threshold into our new life together, but the weight of everything that had happened still hung over me like a shadow. Megan's words, "You'll regret this," echoed in my mind more than I wanted to admit. Part of me wondered if she was right, if this moment of victory, this new beginning, was just the calm before another storm. We took a small honeymoon, just the two of us, to get away from all the noise. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. Every moment I spent with Lisa felt like a reminder of why I'd fought so hard to protect our relationship, to choose her despite everything Megan had thrown in my face. But even in paradise, I couldn't shake the feeling that something still wasn't resolved. Megan was still my sister, after all. No matter how much I wanted to close that door and walk away, I knew deep down that the aftermath of everything, of our broken relationship, of the lies she'd told, was something I couldn't just sweep under the rug. One afternoon, a week after we got back, I received a message. It was from Megan. I stared at the phone for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to block her number, but another part of me knew that we couldn't go on like this. We couldn't leave things unresolved, not after everything. I took a deep breath and opened the message. I know I've hurt you, Dan, and I know I've done things I can't take back. But I need you to understand that I only did it because I was scared of losing you. I never meant for things to get this out of hand. Can we talk? Just one last time, without the anger. My stomach churned as I read it. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was something. A crack in the wall she'd built around herself. Part of me wanted to throw my phone across the room. She'd had her chance, right? She'd betrayed me, and I'd stood up for myself. I didn't owe her anything anymore. But another part of me, the part that still remembered the little girl I'd grown up with, the sister who had been by my side through everything before the bitterness consumed her, wanted to give her a chance. Not for her sake, but for mine, for the sake of my own peace. I showed Lisa the message, her eyes flickering with the same mix of caution and curiosity that I felt. Do you think it's worth it? she asked softly, her hand gently resting on mine. I thought about it for a moment. Was it worth reopening the wound? Was it worth trying to fix something that felt irreparably broken? I don't know, I said, my voice thick with indecision. But I do know one thing. I need to get this out of my head. I need to know if there's anything left between us before I can finally let it go. Lisa nodded, her expression softening. If you think it'll bring you peace, then go ahead. But just remember, she's not the only one who's hurt you. You're the one who gets to decide how much of your energy you want to give her from now on. I let out a slow breath. Yeah, I know, but I can't keep running away from it. That evening, I replied to Megan's message. Okay, let's talk. We agreed to meet at a local coffee shop a few days later. I wasn't sure what I expected from the conversation. A tearful apology, an explanation for the years of manipulation, or maybe I was just hoping to finally find some closure. When I walked into the coffee shop, I saw her sitting at a corner table. She was alone, her back to me, but I could tell she was tense. Her shoulders were stiff, and there was a nervous energy about her that I hadn't seen before. It felt strange, like I was meeting a stranger, not the person I used to trust above anyone else. I sat down across from her, the silence between us thick. Megan's eyes flickered to mine, and for a moment I saw the old vulnerability in them, the one that had always been there before she hardened herself to the world. It was fleeting, but it was there. I don't know where to start, she said, her voice quieter than usual. I've messed up, and I know I can't fix everything, but I want to try. I've spent so long pushing you away, Dan, because I was so consumed by my own fears. I was afraid of being left behind, of losing you. So I tried to control things, and I didn't even see how far I was going until it was too late. I listened quietly, trying not to let the anger from before seep through. I was surprised by the sincerity in her voice. But at the same time, I couldn't just forget what she'd done. It wasn't that simple. You can't just undo everything, Megan, I said, my voice calm but firm. You've hurt me in ways I can't forget. You've tried to tear me down, tear Lisa down. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Her eyes welled up with tears. I know, Dan, I know. And I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't even know if I deserve your forgiveness. But I wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to destroy what you had with Lisa. It was the most honest I'd ever seen her. And for the first time in a long time, I saw Megan as someone who was genuinely broken. Not just the manipulative person I had come to resent, but I also knew that forgiveness wasn't something I could just give away. Not yet, and maybe, just maybe, it wasn't something she deserved. Not right now. I don't know what's next for us, Megan, I said, my voice softening. But this conversation, this is a start. It's not everything, but it's something, she nodded, her shoulders sagging in relief. I'll take whatever you're willing to give. I just want you to know that I regret everything. And I'll do whatever it takes to prove that I'm not the person I was before. I stared at her for a long moment. For the first time in years, it felt like there was a glimmer of hope. Maybe not for us, but for me. For the part of me that needed to let go of the anger, the bitterness, and the resentment. But even with that hope, I knew that forgiveness wasn't just about her. It was about me, and it was going to take time. I stood up to leave, feeling a weight lift off my chest. The future wasn't clear, but I had one thing, my life, my choices, and the power to move forward, no matter what Megan decided to do next. And that, in itself, was a victory. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt lighter. But there was still a part of me that wasn't ready to look back. That part of me, the part that would never let anyone tear me down again, was what I would carry with me into the future. And that felt like freedom. The days after my conversation with Megan felt like a quiet turning point. The emotional weight I had carried for so long, the hurt and the anger, didn't evaporate immediately, but it had been released just enough for me to breathe again. Lisa and I spent the next few weeks enjoying our life as newlyweds, settling into our routine, and trying to put the chaos of the wedding behind us. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fully escape the lingering tension between Megan and me. Her apology, however genuine it seemed, didn't heal the scars she'd left. There was a part of me that kept wondering if I had made a mistake in trying to reconcile with her. Was it the right thing to do? Or had I just opened a door that should have remained closed? Lisa could see it in my eyes. We talked about it often, and each time I felt more confused about how to move forward. I wanted to believe in Megan, to give her another chance, but deep down, I was afraid. Afraid that if I let her back into my life, she would find a way to destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. But the hardest part was the guilt. Guilt that maybe I wasn't doing enough to mend things with my family. Guilt that, in a way, I was walking away from the sister I once knew. Lisa, ever the understanding partner, told me that it was okay to take my time. She never pressured me to forgive Megan, but she also reminded me that holding on to anger and resentment would only continue to weigh me down. She had been right from the beginning. I was the one who needed to heal, who needed to decide what was worth holding on to. It wasn't until one evening, a month after our wedding, that I finally had the courage to take the next step. I decided to reach out to Megan again, not to forgive her immediately, but to have a real conversation about the future. I called her. When she answered, her voice was soft, uncertain, and that familiar tone of guilt lingered beneath her words. Dan. What's up? Is everything okay? I hesitated, feeling the weight of the conversation ahead of me. I think we need to talk again, Megan, about where we go from here. About everything. There was a long pause on the other end. Okay, she said finally, her voice quieter. I understand. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. We agreed to meet at the same coffee shop, the same place where we had confronted everything. This time, though, it wasn't about anger or accusations. It was about moving forward. When I arrived, Megan was already sitting at the table, her posture hunched, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee as though trying to keep herself grounded. She looked tired, worn down by everything that had happened. I sat down across from her, and for a moment neither of us spoke. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't filled with the same tension as before. This time it felt like we were both waiting for the other to make a move. I've been thinking a lot, I started, my voice steady. About everything. About how I've let this situation consume me, and how much of my life has been spent holding on to things that don't serve me anymore. Megan met my gaze. Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Regret, perhaps, or the glimmer of real remorse. I know I've messed up, and I can't take back the things I said or did, but I want you to know that I've been working on myself. I'm trying to understand why I acted the way I did, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Her apology wasn't perfect, and it didn't undo the past, but it felt different this time. She wasn't just asking for forgiveness. She was acknowledging her actions and the damage they had caused. And that, for me, was a start. I appreciate that, Megan, I said, my voice calmer now. But it's not just about saying sorry. It's about showing up, day after day. And right now, I don't know if I can trust you again. Megan nodded, her face falling, but she didn't argue. I get it. I know I've lost your trust, and I don't expect it to come back overnight. But I'll keep trying. I'll keep proving that I can be someone who deserves your trust. I paused, thinking about everything Lisa and I had built together, how far we had come despite the chaos. I need time, Megan. Time to figure out what I want for myself and what I want for my relationship with you. I can't promise anything, but I'm willing to try. Just don't expect me to forget everything that happened. Megan nodded, her lips trembling slightly as she swallowed hard. I don't expect that. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm ready to work for it if you'll let me. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a resolution, not yet. But it was the first real step toward understanding, and maybe even healing. And in that moment, I realized something important. I didn't have to have all the answers right away. I didn't have to rush into forgiveness or reconciliation. I could take my time. As I left the coffee shop, a strange sense of peace washed over me. I wasn't walking away from Megan for good, but I wasn't clinging to the past either. I was finally learning how to move forward, slowly, cautiously, but steadily. And with Lisa by my side, I knew I was making the right choice. Whatever the future held, I was ready to face it. We both were, but the hardest part of all, it wasn't just about forgiving my sister. It was about forgiving myself for letting her manipulate me for so long, and that, too, was a process. The weeks that followed were a quiet, tentative kind of peace. Megan and I didn't talk much after that meeting, but I could sense the shift in the air between us. There was no dramatic fallout, no big confrontation, but I knew we were both walking on eggshells trying to figure out what our new relationship would look like. I focused on Lisa, on building my life with her and trying to leave the past where it belonged, behind us. But as much as I tried to focus on the present, the past had a way of creeping back in when I least expected it. One Friday evening, Lisa and I were sitting in the living room, catching up after a long week. The soft hum of the television was playing in the background, but my mind was elsewhere, reflecting on everything that had happened. It had been weeks since the wedding, since the confrontation with Megan, and I felt like I was finally starting to breathe again. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, and the name that flashed was from someone I wasn't expecting. Megan. She'd sent me a message. I felt a brief flicker of hesitation, but I opened it anyway. Dan, I need to tell you something. Something you should have known before. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but I have to. You need to know the truth about what happened between Lisa and her ex. My heart sank. A cold dread wrapped around me and I could feel the blood drain from my face. Not again. I had just started to believe in our future, in the possibility that Megan was changing, that we were moving forward. And now, out of nowhere, this. I stared at the phone, unsure of what to do next. "What is it?" Lisa asked, glancing over at me. I must have looked pale because she instantly dropped the remote control and came over, her hand touching my shoulder. "Dan, what's wrong?" I shook my head, trying to steady my breath. "It's Megan. She's saying there's something I need to know about your ex." Lisa froze. I could see the tension in her shoulders as her face went blank. I didn't need to say anything else. She already knew what it was. "Dan," she started, but her voice was tight with uncertainty. "I don't know what she's talking about." I looked at her, feeling a knot twist in my stomach. "Then what is this about? Why is she still bringing up your ex?" Lisa stood up and walked over to the window, her back to me, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "I told you everything about my past, Dan. I told you about him. The relationship was bad, but it's over. It's been over for years. I haven't spoken to him since then." "But why would Megan say something like this?" I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. "Why does she keep trying to tear us down?" Lisa was silent for a moment, and when she turned around, her eyes were filled with pain. I think Megan's trying to cause trouble again, Dan. She's doing the same thing she always does, trying to put doubt in your mind, trying to make you question everything. But you have to trust me. Nothing happened. I swear it." I nodded, but something wasn't sitting right with me. Megan had always been a wild card, and I knew I couldn't just dismiss what she'd said. I had to confront it head on. After a few moments of silence, I looked at Lisa. What did she mean, though? Why is she bringing up your ex now? Lisa let out a shaky breath, then walked over to the couch and sat down. It's complicated. There's something I never told you about him." My heart dropped again. "What do you mean?" Lisa looked at me, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "Dan, there's a reason why Megan is saying these things. I didn't want to tell you because I thought it would make things worse, but now I have to. My ex, he wasn't just an abusive boyfriend. He was someone I thought was gone, but he's been trying to reach me again. He's been texting me, calling me, and I didn't want to bring it up to you because I didn't want you to think I was hiding anything." I sat down next to her, trying to process everything she was saying. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she said softly, her voice almost breaking. "I didn't want to drag this into our lives. I thought it was over, that he was gone for good. But now I see what Megan's doing. She's trying to use this against us, Dan." I could feel the room spinning. This wasn't just about Megan anymore. It was about Lisa's past, about a part of her life I hadn't fully known, and I wasn't sure how to feel. There was a part of me that was furious, that felt betrayed by the secrets Lisa had kept from me. But there was also a part of me that understood the pain of wanting to forget something terrible, of wanting to protect the person you love from a painful truth. I reached for her hand, feeling a strange calm wash over me. "You should have told me sooner. I need to know everything, Lisa. I can't keep wondering what's out there, what's still lurking." "I know," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "But I swear, Dan, I've been trying to leave it behind. I've been trying to protect you, protect us from him. But I can't hide this from you anymore. I'm sorry." The weight of it all hit me like a wave. Megan had caused so much chaos already, but now I was learning things I hadn't expected. The lies, the manipulation, it was all starting to come into focus. Megan wasn't just sabotaging our wedding. She was pulling strings behind the scenes, trying to tear us apart in ways I hadn't even realized. I stood up, pacing for a moment as I tried to piece it all together. "We need to talk to Megan," I said finally. "We need to end this once and for all. I won't let her tear us apart." Lisa looked up at me, her eyes filled with fear and determination. "Do you think it'll even matter? Do you think Megan will stop after we confront her? She's too deep in this, Dan. I don't know if she's ever going to let go." I stopped pacing and looked at Lisa. "I don't care if it matters. I'm done being afraid of her. It's time we took control of this. We can't keep letting her ruin our lives." I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was time to face Megan once and for all, to confront everything she had tried to destroy. The truth was finally out, and it was time to stop letting the past haunt us. And for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to fight for my future. The following days felt like a constant whirlwind, as Lisa and I made the decision to finally confront Megan. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the same person I was weeks ago, constantly second-guessing my decisions, letting my sister's words poison my mind. I had been blind to the toxicity Megan had woven into our lives, and now it was time to cut that thread once and for all. The plan was simple. We would meet her in person. No more messages. No more indirect accusations. We would sit down, face to face, and lay everything out. I wasn't going to let her control this situation anymore, let her pull strings behind the scenes. If she wanted to keep this war going, it was time for me to stand up and put an end to it. Lisa, ever patient and understanding, supported me every step of the way. "I'm with you, Dan," she had said when I told her what I was planning. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." We set the meeting for the weekend, at a cafe we had been to a few times during our relationship. It wasn't anything special, just a quiet, familiar place where we could have a calm conversation. But something told me that today would be anything but calm. I didn't know what I expected from Megan. A part of me hoped she'd show up, apologize, and admit that she'd been wrong. But deep down, I knew better. She was too proud, too ingrained in her own version of events to come clean so easily. This was going to be a confrontation, a battle of wills, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. The day of the meeting, I was already on edge. I had been pacing around the apartment for hours, my thoughts racing. Would Megan even show up? What would she say? Would this conversation be a turning point, or just another battle in a war I'd never asked to be part of? When Lisa and I walked into the cafe, I spotted Megan right away. She was sitting at a table in the back, her back to us, staring down at her phone. She looked the same as always, put together, confident, with an air of superiority that made my blood boil. But I could tell she was nervous too. There was an underlying tension in her posture, the way she kept glancing up at the door. I didn't give her the satisfaction of waiting for her to approach us. I walked straight over to her table, my steps firm, my heart pounding. Lisa followed me, a steady presence at my side. Megan looked up when we reached the table, her eyes flickering with something like surprise, though it quickly masked itself with a fake smile. "Dan, Lisa," she said coolly, her voice tight. "Glad you could make it." I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Let's cut to the chase, Megan," I said, my voice low but firm. "We're not here to play games anymore. I'm done with the lies. I'm done letting you manipulate us." Megan's eyes narrowed, but she didn't speak right away. She just sat there, silently evaluating me. Lisa sat beside me, her hands folded in her lap, her expression tense but calm. "You've been pulling the strings, Megan," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "You've been spreading lies about Lisa and me. You've tried to tear us apart, and for what? Because you're jealous? Because you feel left behind? Whatever your reasons are, I'm not going to let you do this anymore." Megan opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand to stop her. "You've had your chance to explain yourself. Now it's my turn. You have two choices. You can either keep playing this game, trying to destroy everything I've worked for, or you can own up to what you've done. This stops today." The silence between us was thick. Megan's jaw clenched, her eyes flashing with anger. For a moment I thought she might explode, shout, accuse, deny everything. But then she surprised me. She leaned back in her chair, her gaze never leaving mine. "You think it's that simple?" Megan said, her voice surprisingly calm. "You think you can just walk in here and lay it all out like it's some big revelation? You don't understand, Dan. I wasn't trying to tear you two apart. I was trying to protect you." I shook my head, incredulous. "Protect me? By lying to me? By trying to ruin my relationship? That's not protecting me, Megan. That's manipulation. That's selfishness. You've been so wrapped up in your own insecurities, your own jealousy, that you couldn't even see how far you were going. You've hurt everyone around you." Her eyes flickered with something. Guilt, maybe, or frustration. "I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted that. But I was scared. I was scared of losing you. And I thought if I could just prove that Lisa wasn't right for you, I could keep you all to myself. I needed you, Dan." The confession hung in the air like a weight. It wasn't an excuse. It wasn't an apology. But for the first time in this entire mess, Megan was admitting the truth, admitting that her actions had come from a place of fear, not malice. I didn't know how to respond at first. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her she was pathetic, but part of me felt a strange empathy. She wasn't the enemy I had built her up to be. She was just a person, deeply flawed, trying to find her place in the world, but I couldn't forget what she had done. I couldn't ignore the damage she'd caused. "You don't get to control me anymore, Megan," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done with the games. I'm done letting you decide who's in my life. I chose Lisa. She's the one I love. She's the one I'm building my future with, and you need to accept that." Megan sat back in her chair, her face a mixture of anger and resignation. She opened her mouth to speak, but then stopped herself, taking a deep breath. "I get it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I forgive myself." And just like that, I knew it was over. The war was done. There was nothing more to say. No more lies. No more manipulation. I stood up, and Lisa stood with me, her hand gently brushing against mine. "We're done here, Megan," I said. "You've had your chance. Now, it's time to move on." We walked out of the cafe, the weight of the conversation still heavy between us, but lighter than it had ever been. We were finally free. And as I walked out into the daylight side by side with Lisa, I knew that nothing would ever tear us apart again. The weeks after my confrontation with Megan felt like a slow but steady healing process. The weight I'd been carrying for so long, those months of tension, of doubt, of trying to protect my relationship from the storm that Megan had unleashed, finally began to lift. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't easy. But there was a shift, a subtle but unmistakable change. For the first time in ages, I felt like I could breathe deeply again. Lisa and I didn't talk much about the confrontation after that day. She knew I was still processing it all, and so was she. But there was an unspoken understanding between us. We were moving forward, together. Things with Megan didn't immediately improve, and I wasn't sure if they ever would. It was clear that she needed time to deal with her own demons, her jealousy, her need for control. I couldn't fix that for her. I couldn't make her see the harm she'd caused. And I realized, after all these years, that I couldn't save her from herself anymore. Lisa and I spent most of our days simply enjoying the peace we had created. Our weekends were spent exploring new places, going on hikes, laughing, talking about our dreams for the future. I finally felt like we were building something real, something solid. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And that was enough. But Megan wasn't entirely gone from our lives. There were moments when she'd reach out, trying to make contact in her own way, through a text, a voicemail, or even a casual mention from mutual family members. I could feel the old familiar pull. Maybe we could work things out, maybe I could fix it, but deep down, I knew that wasn't the right path. I wasn't the same person I was before, and neither was Megan. The relationship we once had been broken, and no amount of trying to repair it could bring back what was lost. It wasn't until one afternoon, about a month later, that I received a message from her. My heart skipped a beat as I read the name on my screen, Megan. I almost didn't open it. I had been avoiding it for so long, but something in me told me I needed to read it. Dan, I know things have been hard between us. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I've been working on myself. I've been going to therapy, trying to understand why I did the things I did. I don't know if I'll ever be able to make up for what I've done, but I hope one day we can find a way to move past this. I miss you. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. I hadn't expected this. Megan hadn't reached out with anger or resentment this time. This was different. This was a sign of change, her change at least. But it also came with a heavy truth. I wasn't sure if I was ready to let her back into my life, even in this new form. I didn't respond immediately. I sat there, my mind racing, trying to process everything. Megan had always been the one to pull the strings, to push me into decisions I wasn't ready to make. But this was different. Now, I was the one with the power to decide. And it was time for me to decide whether I wanted to keep holding on to the past or truly let go. Lisa walked in, sensing something was on my mind. She came over and sat beside me, resting her head on my shoulder. "What's wrong?" I showed her the message from Megan. She read it silently, her expression unreadable. "I don't know what to do," I said, my voice thick with emotion. Part of me wants to forgive her. Part of me wants to move on and never look back. Lisa squeezed my hand gently. "You don't have to decide right now. You've been through so much, Dan. It's okay to take your time with this. You don't owe her anything, not after everything she's done. You've given her enough chances." Her words hit me harder than I expected. You don't owe her anything. In that moment, I realized that Lisa was right. I didn't owe Megan forgiveness, and I didn't owe her a second chance. My life, our life, was not going to be dictated by someone who had spent years trying to control and manipulate me. It wasn't about being cruel or holding on to bitterness. It was about knowing that I had already given enough. It was time to let go. I responded to Megan's message later that night, my fingers hovering over the keyboard as I carefully crafted my reply. "I appreciate you reaching out, and I'm glad to hear that you're working on yourself. But I've already moved forward. I can't keep holding on to something that's broken. I wish you well, but I need to focus on my life, on the future I've built. I hope you find peace, but I can't be a part of it anymore." I sent the message, feeling a strange sense of finality. Megan had always been a source of chaos in my life, but now I was closing that door. It wasn't out of anger. It wasn't because I hated her. It was simply because I had finally learned to choose myself. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. The following days felt lighter. I could breathe again without that constant knot in my chest. Lisa and I continued building our life together, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't worried about the past. I wasn't worried about what Megan would do next. The future was wide open, and I was ready to step into it. Fully, completely, and without hesitation. Lisa and I took a weekend trip a few weeks later, just the two of us, to celebrate the peace we had found. As we walked hand in hand along the beach, the sound of the waves crashing in the background, I realized something. I had finally found the peace I had been looking for, not just with Lisa, but with myself, and for the first time, I was okay with leaving the past behind. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't without scars, but it was a new beginning. And this time, I was ready for it. The following months felt like a gentle breeze after a storm. Everything seemed quieter, more stable. Lisa and I had settled into a rhythm, a routine where the noise of past conflicts and family drama no longer rattled us. It was as if the world had finally stopped spinning out of control, and we were able to breathe, really breathe, for the first time in a long while. We spent our evenings cooking dinner together, laughing over silly jokes, planning our future. We went on small trips, exploring new places, creating memories, and allowing ourselves to simply enjoy each other's company. The tension between us had faded, replaced with a deeper connection, one built on trust and understanding. We were in a good place, and I had learned to truly appreciate what we had. But there were still moments when I'd think about Megan, the strange, unresolved knot in my chest that would occasionally resurface. She was my sister, and despite everything she had done, despite the distance between us now, there was always a part of me that hoped she'd change. I couldn't forget her, not entirely. One evening, a few months after our final confrontation, I got a call. It was from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, my heart skipping a beat. Could it be Megan? Had she finally decided to try again, to make amends? I picked up the phone. "Nah?" came the voice on the other end. "It's Mom." A wave of panic rushed through me. I immediately sat up straighter, my mind racing. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" My mom's voice was shaky, as if she had been crying. "It's about Megan. She's gone." For a moment, I couldn't process her words. "What do you mean? Gone? What happened?" "She's in the hospital, Dan. She tried to take her own life." The words hit like a punch to the gut. I felt everything go numb, the air leaving my lungs as I struggled to comprehend what my mom had just told me. Megan, my sister, was in the hospital after attempting suicide. The woman who had been so full of rage and bitterness, the one who had pushed me away for so long, had reached a point where she felt that there was no way out? I didn't know what to feel. Anger, sadness, guilt, they all swirled inside me like a storm I couldn't control. The person I had tried to protect, the person I had finally let go of, was now in a situation I could never have predicted. My mom continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just asking if you can come, Dan. She's asking for you." She's alone." The decision was immediate. I didn't have to think twice. No matter what had happened between us, Megan was still my sister. I couldn't turn my back on her now, not when she was at her lowest. Not when she was asking for help. "I'll be there," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm coming." I hung up the phone and looked at Lisa, who had been quietly watching me, her face filled with concern. "Lisa, Megan's in the hospital. She tried to take her own life." Her eyes filled with understanding and sorrow. "Dan, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do?" "I have to go to her," I said, my voice heavy with emotion. "I don't know what's going to happen, but she's my sister. She needs me." Lisa nodded, squeezing my hand. "I'll go with you if you want." I shook my head, grateful for her support, but knowing this was something I needed to face on my own. This is something I have to do. I'll be okay." As I drove to the hospital, my mind raced. I hadn't seen Megan in weeks, hadn't spoken to her since our final confrontation. I wasn't sure what I was walking into, but I knew one thing. I had to face the reality of what had happened. No more running away. No more pretending everything was fine. It was time to face my sister, whether I was ready for it or not. When I arrived, my mom was waiting in the lobby looking exhausted, her face pale. She embraced me tightly, as if she hadn't seen me in years, and I held on to her, feeling a deep sadness for the situation that had brought us back together. "She's in there," my mom said, nodding toward the door. "The doctors say she's stable, but I don't know, Dan. I don't know if she'll ever be the same." I walked into Megan's hospital room, my heart in my throat. She was lying in the bed, her eyes closed, connected to IVs and monitors. Her face was pale, her hair messy, and she looked so small, so fragile. I barely recognized her. The strong, defiant woman who had tried to tear my world apart now seemed like a ghost of herself. I sat beside her bed, unsure of what to say. The silence in the room felt suffocating. For a long time, Megan didn't speak, and I didn't know what to do. I was angry with her. I was hurt by everything she'd done to me, to Lisa. But as I looked at her, lying there vulnerable and broken, the anger faded. It was replaced by something else, compassion maybe, or the realization that she had been suffering in her own way. I could never understand what had driven her to this point, but I knew that there was no way I could let her slip away. Not without trying to help her. Finally, she opened her eyes, and when she saw me sitting there, her face softened. There was no bravado, no defiance, just exhaustion and fear. Dan. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't have the answers. I didn't know what to say. But I leaned in, my voice quiet. You don't have to explain it all, Megan. I'm here now. I'll be here. We'll figure it out. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of closure. Not the closure I had expected. Not the one I thought I'd get after cutting her out of my life. But a different kind. A kind that came with knowing that, for once, I wasn't running away from the hard things. I was choosing to show up. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid to face it. And whatever happened next, I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let go of the people who mattered to me again. Not now. Not ever.